Hey, boo. Welcome to a bonus episode of the First Gen Lounge. We are just going to talk this week. We do every week, we have these different conversations, but no intro, no background. Let's just talk. Let's just talk. I think we need to. I first and foremost want to thank you for being here, for showing up. I say it, I can't say it enough because it matters to me that of all the things you can be doing in your life, you continue to come back to this space and be a part of the conversations that I do try so hard to make meaningful for you and for your life. I have really been in a wonky headspace for the past several days because it's just been a lot going on. You already know what it is, but we're still going to talk about it. The fact that I'm going to say global pandemic and global protest 2020 happening at the same time blows my mind. This is something that I feel like I just read in a history book about what happened back in the 1920s and 30s and 40s. And who would have thought that it would be reality for us right now? That we would be living in a time of a global crisis that is not only killing people, but killing people like crazy. And what gets me is history repeats itself. I get that. But it has just been so much because we haven't even gotten through the pandemic before we entered into the protesting within the pandemic. And my goodness. But in terms of the heaviness that I've been carrying lately, just in my mind and my heart, I maybe am a self-proclaimed empath. And for me, when things are happening, in my world and the world around me, I feel it and I feel it really deeply. And it can be hard for me to kind of work through the emotions because once I get over feeling one, I'm feeling another. So just imagine I've been really intensely feeling everything from the pandemic and just now kind of like getting a breath from that. And then we run into this. And I say to the person, if it's you who's like me, I see you and I get it and I'm with you. I've had to do so much as like delete social media apps, and then I got back on them after I had a couple of conversations with some friends, because when times like this happen, especially as we're talking about Black Lives Mattering, and I just talked to you about how I felt about being Black and first gen back in February, and then to come to this, right? Sometimes it feels like in all the things that I'm doing or that I try to do that it's never enough. And then there are other times when I feel like everything that I'm doing, I'm screaming to the top of my lungs and nobody hears me. And so there's this very complex, internal thing that I tend to feel in times of like this, right? When we are mourning the lives of Black people in a way that is just absolutely unnecessary, and it's painful, and it's to feel like that could be me, that could be my husband, my sister, my mama, to try to make sense of it and then to try to figure out how to show up. And it's in these times that I've typically struggled with how I do show up. And more lately, and being vulnerable with you, I've really been in my head about how to show up and have a platform. Not even that I'm looking to, be on team silent. I'm a processor by nature. So it means a lot for me to just take that step back to figure out what I'm figuring out and then to reapproach, the situation or think about whatever I'm putting out there. Is this me being reactive or this is me being thoughtful? And I've always been a very thoughtful person. even in terms of just taking my time to think through things. Because when I say what I say, I'm going to say what I say. And that's just what that is. But, processing everything that's happening, as a human being, as a Black person, as a double minority Black woman. And then I add to the layers of it a first generation college graduate. What does it have to do with anything? You already know what's got to do with everything, because it's this thing of being educated enough to understand things, from a formal perspective, this identity perspective, this intersection of who I am, between moving from one class to another class, between, the hood in me and the well-groomed in me. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. That's why you come here. And so there are these things that I just find myself, working to make sense of. And so I decided, like I normally do, because I'm just a reflective person. I was like, I'm going to reach out to my friends, and I'm going to talk to my friends when we are going to have conversations about, business stuff, and catch up how things are going, and really put out there what I'm feeling. And in doing so, I found myself like in a much, much better headspace, and one that actually gave me what I needed to be able to go ahead and record this show. Because I was planning on not doing anything this week. I was like, nope, nope. We just gonna be quiet, and not being quiet out of, again, being silent. We're gonna be quiet because we just need to process. But because I was bold enough to reach out and get the support that I needed from my friend, I was able to say, this is how I'm going to show up for my people. In one conversation, I had a friend point out to me, because I was saying to them, when I think about protesting, and I saw all this stuff on social media, everybody's got a bullhorn, and everybody's trying to tell you to be out there in the streets and go do this and go do that. You need to be doing this. And, if you don't watch it, you can end up feeling like, well, dang, wait a minute. Whoa. Am I going to get called out for not saying something or doing something? But then you realize that, like I was about to say, when I look at some of the protests from the past, and I used to look at pictures because I'm so fascinated with, civil rights movement especially, and I was like studying it when I was in school from a higher education perspective, to just know, like, how did this shape higher education, and how has it shaped what we've become now? Because you can learn a lot from the past. And so I found myself thinking, there were people who were watching people's kids. There were people who were making lunches. There were people who were, driving people to other places that they needed to go. There were people who were, in spaces where they say, hey, if you need my space to meet and do things, you can use my space. You can be here. And when I said that to my friend, the response that I got was, so everybody does have their lane. So for you, Eve, why do you feel like it's not appropriate or right, or the space to be able to articulate that? And that really checked me. It really checked me, because even so, we went further into the conversation, and they brought up this idea that I have a platform that I've literally built off of the fact that there were some things happening for me, and I just wanted to know if anybody else felt the same way. And like I, admitted to you back in February as well, I did not have the intention of having a show where I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this for the Black people, it's all Black. But I really, really started to understand the impact of having something for people of color, for Black people, Hispanic people, for people. But even when I think about me being a Black woman, and the number of Black guests I've had, and we talked about the number of Black people who've hired me to do jobs, it just is like, how crystal clear is it that what you've got is what is needed the way that it is? Is it not enough? And in that thought process, it also made me think about the people who are like myself, feeling like, is what I'm doing enough? Is how I'm showing up enough? And we don't always see that what we're doing every day, when we are doing things that are of our truth, and how we show up is what's impactful and what is necessary for the world and everybody around us. Don't forget, a few weeks ago, we had a conversation about gratitude and thinking about how we're all connected to everything. And even I told you at that point, you can't think that anything you do too small, or even if it's large, that it's just not enough. Everything's enough. And why was I feeling like I wasn't doing enough or didn't know what to do? And the reminder I got that I needed, that I'm here to remind you of today, is to show up, do your best, be who you are, and do what you can do according to how you know you can do it. And for what you don't know right now, you don't know. But when you know better, you can do better in whatever circumstance that may be. So saying that first and foremost to you, because if you allow it to other people, social media, the media, you will find sometimes you're struggling with, I'm not doing enough. I'm not out there protesting. I'm not marching. I'm not doing this. But are you having conversations with the youth about why Black Lives Matter? Are you having conversations with your children? Are you having conversations in your community? Are you sending letters? Are you making phone calls? Are you donating to funds to support the causes around the country, around the nation, around the globe that are in alignment with what you believe? Because I think one of the more challenging ways to show up is to show up in a manner that it's not even something you believe, and then you're doing a disservice to whatever it is you're doing. And it's important because, like I talked about earlier, in the show, with people making lunches and watching kids and helping people get where they got to go, do you not think that's impactful? Do you not think that somebody showing up for something to be, quote, on the front lines, or to have a bullhorn, or somebody who made the signs that people were holding up, you don't think that was impactful? We look at those signs today. When we're looking at photos from the past, we see those signs, and somebody did that. Somebody did that. Even if it's a person holding the sign and they never said anything, you still have to have a voice. And, we talked about a year ago with our brother Kane, who came on, and he even mentioned, you got to figure out what your voice is going to look like and how you're going to show up. But even in being who you are, talking to another friend is what reminded me of what I'm about to say to you. And that is owning who you are in all of this. I'm a person who empowers, I inspire, I uplift, I encourage, I try to bring light and love. And at a time like this, I'm thinking, how do I contribute? And I'm like, if you're an encourager, you need to be encouraging your people. If you are somebody of light and love, be of light and love. If you are an educator, educate. Whatever it is that you do it well, because that is what the people who are around you need the most. They don't need you to take on another personality or persona, or to take on somebody else's agenda to be who you are and give what you give, how you give it. If you are a nurturer, people are hurting right now. Nurture those people. If you are an encourager, people are disappointed and sad and frustrated right now. Encourage those people. And that's the conversation I had to have with myself, because everything isn't so, ha, 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 like, just rah, 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 whatever that is. I made something up, but everything is not so extroverted in what it is that is happening. Sometimes, you're just introverted, and the way you process and think and want to do things is how you do it. So don't let people make you feel bad about how you protest, how you show up. Pull up how you pull up. That's what I've spent all this time, and what I'm talking about to get to today. Pull up how you pull up. Because if everybody was doing the same thing, nothing would be getting done. And if everybody had the same mission, nothing would be getting done. And what I mean by the same mission, if we all are going to get bullhorns and go scream on the streets, or if we're all going to just, do nothing will be good. We have to have a balance. And this is what it means to be a community right now. Sis, I see you. I see you leading this organization. I see that you out here, you needing help. You need volunteers. What do you need? How can I show up, and how can I be there for you? This is how I'm going to show up. You need what? I got you. This is how we take care of each other in a time where it feels like I don't know what to do or where to go or even how to be present. If you are an artist and you create peace art, why not create that art right now that's going to bring joy to somebody's life? Do what you do best. If you are a speaker, why not go speak? If you are somebody who's an educator, find a way to teach the people. We can't reach everybody the same. And even as I'm saying that, I want to say this. I was talking to one of my former students the other day, and I found myself saying we get so upset with people because we expect for them to think like we think and be like we are. And the reason we're so mad with each other sometimes, especially when we are in very sensitive, highly emotional states, is that we want people to believe what we want to believe or how we believe. And we think you're supposed to see the world the way I see it. And that's not fair to yourself or to those people. But that's also the problem with our world. We don't see life the same, but are we supposed to? No. The best thing you can do in situations like this, and I've said it and I'm going to keep saying it, is show up and be yourself. And we can point fingers all day, and we're going to end up pointing fingers all day long. Show up and do what you can, because here's what I know. You can't change anybody. You can only influence people and hope that they change, but you can't change them. People have to choose to change for themselves. So even when I say to you to show up and be yourself, when you are in your own realm, talking about what you're talking about, doing how you do it, economic, what we going to do with black businesses, what are we going to do with black community centers, what are we going to do here and there? Like, when you show up, only give what you can, but there are going to be people who are always going to be resistant to what you're going to say. And I know that's part of the reason why I, like, for real, hesitated in what I wanted to put out there about how I'm feeling and thinking and where I'm at, because I'm like, I don't like controversy and conflict and, but it's like, whatever, because no matter how much of something great you do, people are always going to find fault. They're going to find flaw. They're going to judge you. They're going to say you should have done one thing over the other thing. So in a time like this, I'm going to say it again, pull up how you pull up and take away some of the stress from getting mad with people who just aren't where you are, because everybody comes to terms with things when they come to terms with things, however they come to terms with things. The only thing you can do is share your truth, because your truth and my truth are not the same. But that does not mean we can't find common ground, or it does not mean that maybe something you say one day about your truth just resonates and it makes my heart change. It gives me a different perspective. And now I'm curious and I want to explore things in a different way. That's what I'm saying. So in this time, I want you to really take care of yourself. I want you to really be gentle with yourself. I know I tell you that, but really be gentle with yourself right now, because it's a lot going on and you got to give yourself credit for this global shift. Now, I mean, literally, we just went from being normal people to being restricted to the house, not even being around people, to now being thrown in groups with people. And then we're fighting for the lives of Black people. And in a way that is just so much, right? And we got people whose families are dying and friends are dying from COVID. And we've still got Black people who are dying, who are innocent at the hands of the powers that be. And it's just kind of like, this is crazy. And it feels like I can't breathe with this. I ain't trying to be funny and do no pun. Like, literally, it is hard to catch a breath. I get it. So in all that you're going through, if you got to just sit back and do nothing for a minute, do nothing. Be cool with that. But when you're ready, stand up and speak up. And here's the thing I'm going to say too. What I understand, what I know, is that being silent is one thing, but people don't know everything that you do. They will never know everything that you do. I about to say every damn thing you do. So I just said it right. Because what's happening is that when you're going through stuff or when you're doing things, period, people only get the glimpse of what you show them. So for you who may be concerned or, perceiving this How is my brand? How is my business? How is my podcast? How am I as a person, being perceived right now? As I struggle with it, I just found myself saying, again, damned if you do, damned if you don't, because no matter how much you do, it is very well possible that somebody's going to be like, yo, I didn't see it. So that means you didn't do it. But do y'all know that some people out here are some of the biggest philanthropists? Floyd Mayweather's one of them. And because he didn't walk around here flaunting and talking about it doesn't mean he not doing it. So even when you think about how how you pull up, know that you are doing what you do, and it ain't got nothing to do with anybody else. So if you can, saving yourself some of that stress, some of that heartache, some of that, oh, well, I didn't, put a picture about the protest, but if you was there, you were there. If you sent emails, if you've made phone calls, if you've donated funds, you're not obligated to tell anybody what you're doing, because there are people who are serious multi-millionaires who don't even touch social media, who are not even on social media. But that doesn't mean that they don't have incredibly successful businesses, that they're not out here giving and doing. What you do is not for show. So if you are doing it from your heart, it doesn't have to be seen. It does not have to be visible. There's nothing wrong with sharing, because I even understand as an entrepreneur, you've got to share what you're doing, right? But you've also got to decide what's worth sharing and what's not. So for you who are even between this personal thing you got going on, this private thing, everybody doesn't see everything, and they're not supposed to, and they won't. So find yourself some relief in that no matter what, if you doing what you know you're supposed to be doing, however that is supposed to be, and you're not silent, who's to say that you are silent is because you're not saying anything on social media? Like, for real. So I encourage you today to find peace. I encourage you today to be encouraged. I encourage you today to know that what you do, however you do it, matters. And that what you do, when you're doing what you do, is not just for this moment while there's a whole bunch of excitement around everything that's going on. What you do is a daily act. It's a regular act, commitment to changing the world. And I say that to even say, by understanding this, it gave me the perspective when I think about the work that I do, through this podcast, if it's speaking, if it's helping people build their businesses or, create their podcast. I love that, because what I get is the work long term. When I'm helping a student get a degree to be positioned as an administrator at an institution of higher education, I am helping the future, and I am influencing what can happen for policy on down the line. When I am helping someone to build their podcast and to help their voices be heard, I am helping them to also create community and provide additional outlet for those who need that person for whatever they're specializing in. Military, queer, LGBT, mental health, men's health, whatever it is, right? I understand that me showing up how I show up is helping other people show up how they show up. When I show up in this podcast to have these conversations with you, to empower you, to give you perspective, to go on in your life and be great in what you are in your professional settings, in graduate school, as entrepreneurs, I am contributing to the world in such a way that you are offering your gifts in only ways that you can. I'm helping you get there. I'm helping to be a catalyst of change that I want to see. So I'm telling you, educator, politician, doctor, lawyer, teacher, entrepreneur, whatever it is that you are, show up how you show up and show the hell out. And know that what you're doing, however you choose to do it, is enough. And do what you can do until you feel like doing something different. And if you don't feel like you're doing anything different, that's cool too. Pull up how you pull up. That's all I hope for you. Because I don't need you to do it, right? I'm not going to tell you that you need to do anything. That's not my place. but I'm only going to encourage you to find your place. And again, pull up how you pull up. Know that I love you. I'm proud of you. I appreciate you. You are here. You matter. You always matter. You will always matter. Keep being good to yourself and keep showing up so that you can change the world in only the way that you can each and every day.